Arrow stretched his arms and legs, thinking he had returned to his bed. Ugh, my head. Ugh, what a dream, he groaned. Laying still for a moment longer, Arrow's instincts began to burn. Why does it feel like the ground is shaking? Ava, Rael, cut it out. Grasping for blankets to shield himself from what he thought were Ava and Rael's cantankerous antics, Arrow felt only warm sand. Opening his eyes, it hit him all at once. Unable to keep them open long, it was the sound ringing through his entire body that was undeniable. What now? Arrow sighed. Sitting in an open sky coliseum, hidden by the entangled forest atop the celestial tortoise's back, Arrow knew his dream was not yet finished. The cheering and shouting that shook his surroundings came from the audience of spirits, celestial creatures, and divine entities. Looking around the arena, Arrow was intrigued by the Colosseum's foundations. Not only was it composed of ruins from the ancient city, but it also included large trees, standing and fallen, as well as many giant boulders, all of which was resting atop a natural bedrock formation. The mysterious creatures that filled the grandstands of trees and rock became excited, roaring as Arrow stood. At first, their screams and shouts seemed wild and chaotic, but with time they harmonized into a singular chant. Goo-rock, 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 the crowd chanted. Goo-rock, goo-rock, goo-rock. Arrow studied the cheering crowd, expecting someone or something to jump out at any moment. The chants continued to get louder, yet nothing changed until he looked up. Arrow could see a large, bright object flying through the new realm above. The mysterious-looking comet burned green and yellow with black streaks peeling off. The sight of it would have been indescribably beautiful if it weren't for the fact that it was coming straight for him. As the comet continued closer, the crowd's harmonized chant sped up. Goo rock, goo rock, goo rock. The stadium was so large that the mysterious ball of multicolored fire crash landed a good distance away. Even so, the force was enough to knock Arrow from his feet. Getting up, Arrow noticed the rhythmic chanting had stopped and a chaotic eruption of cheer had taken its place. Arrow's focus was directed to the pluming wall of dust as a monstrous face took form, shouting the champion's name. Gurok! From the mouth of the roaring monstrous face erupted a four-armed beast Arrow had only ever heard tale of. Swinging its arms, a great orc propelled himself through the air while striking several poses. Landing, he struck the same series of odd poses, the crowd cheering with joy at each of them. The four-armed orc stood still, its top arms raised above its head, cheering and waving to the crowd, its bottom arms stoically wielding a golden staff in one hand and a giant glowing red sword attached to what remained of the other. The huge orc lowered his upper arms, crossing them over his chest. The look on his face intensified as he slowly made his way towards the center of the arena. The orc's pitch-black pupilless eyes now stared only at Arrow. Gazing back, Arrow could no longer ignore Gurok's ridiculous size. Standing close to 6 yards tall, the orc overflowed with muscle. The intense stare down between them was enough for Arrow to know that Gurok was there for a fight. What Arrow had previously known about orcs is that they were exceptionally large, not the smartest, and usually very uncoordinated. Although this one didn't look too bright, its physical stature and build was beyond anything he imagined. It appears I'm in for a rough time, Arrow muttered. Adorned with jewelry and tokens from previous deeds that chattered with each step, Gurok approached, a mighty example of strength, beauty, and death. But all the shiny trinkets and devious weapons in the world couldn't distract from the stalagmite teeth erupting like two jagged spears from the orc's mouth. Reaching the center of the arena, Gurok began shouting in a language Arrow didn't recognize. Whatever he said got the crowd riled up again. Translation: I, Gurok, answer the challenge. I shall test this one so small, this one who seeks guardianship. If he can smite me, then he may be worthy. Hey, big guy, any chance of talking about this? Arrow politely asked. Raising his stump-fitted glowing sword in the air, Gurok shouted again in the mysterious language. This time, the crowd grew silent. Within an instant, the four-armed orc launched an attack. Unable to even think, Gurok's giant foot struck Arrow squarely in the chest, sending him flying. Slamming into the wall at the opposite end of the arena, Arrow found himself lodged in stone. Stumbling out of the rubble, the crowd roared. Normally, when something Gurok size kicks you in the chest, you explode. Whether it was the dream world he was in or some other odd reason, Arrow was completely fine. As a matter of fact, he barely felt a thing. What kind of dream is this? He said, checking himself in disbelief. He knew he was strong, but there had to be something going on. Coming to terms with not knowing all the answers, a large smirk appeared on Arrow's face. The dream had created a scenario he had never encountered before. For the first time, he could let it all go. He didn't have to worry about appearances or the town and the people in it, not even his friends. For the first time, he was able to let himself become completely unhinged in a fight, without the thought of hurting those who didn't deserve it. The bonus of not taking much damage primed Arrow to test himself against the orc. Walking towards Gurok, Arrow's guard was completely down, welcoming another attack. Gurok ignored his approach and remained cheering to the crowd. Taking advantage of this, Arrow launched himself forward with blinding speed, returning a kick to Gurok's chest and sending the great orc tumbling across the arena. The cheering crowd went silent. They had never seen their champion take such a hit. Arrow broke the silence with a boasting "Goal!" as Gurok slammed headfirst into a wall between two trees at the opposite end of the arena. The orc rose from the attack. As he turned, Arrow noticed that he was sporting the same grin he just had, a look of malicious joy. I guess it's been some time since you've been hit like that, huh? Come get some more, Arrow chuckled. Their mischievous smiles didn't falter as Gurok and Arrow launched towards one another. Screaming as loud as a 6-yard tall, four-armed orc could, Gurok's charge was ferocious. Whether intentional or part of some performance, Arrow chose to scream right back. The crowd erupted with excitement as the two clashed with such force it shook the Colosseum. Blow after blow, the two exchanged a flurry of punches and kicks, neither backing down. Cartwheeling and flipping with a misdirecting rhythm he learned from Rael, Arrow was able to confuse the great orc and disarm him of his sword, exposing the stump of Gurok's lower left arm. Taking advantage of the opening, Arrow continued his assault, putting Gurok on a defensive retreat. Until now, the great orc hadn't used his weapons. He was now forced to rely on the only one he had left. For a moment, Arrow had the upper hand, but with every strike blocked by Gurok's golden staff, the great orc seemed to grow stronger. Arrow's attacks dwindled to an exhausted pace. Is this staff stealing my energy? This must be what Hanzo felt like. With the loss of concentration, Gurok caught Arrow slipping, striking him with the first offensive swing of the golden staff. As Arrow tumbled and skipped across the ground, he could hear the crowd's oscillating cheers. Confused, Arrow took a moment. That actually hurt. Finally looking up, he could see Gurok above him, his black eyes oozing with excitement. Arrow then knew he wasn't going to be able to beat Gurok in his current form, but without knowing how to activate his abilities, he could only pray for a miracle. Bit by bit, Gurok would break Arrow down, his experience as an arena fighter beginning to show. One hit to the stomach, another to the face, and a final kick would send Arrow flying through the air yet again. Picking himself up, the booming voices returned, echoing all around. Trust in yourself. Find the strength within to become more than you are. Focus. Gurok, seemingly angered by the wisdom of the many voices, charged once again. Look inside myself for strength, huh? Arrow said. Sitting in a cross-legged position, Arrow calmed his breath and centered his mind, like Ava taught him to. Gurok was not stifled by the strange tactic, booting Arrow across the arena like a Zor ball. Flying through the air, Arrow could see his opponent turn to accept praise from the crowd. Landing gracefully, Arrow rolled back into his cross-legged, meditative state. Recentering himself, he quickly found control. By containing his emotions, something changed. Something within him unlocked, awakening a connection to his power. Noticing the change in energy, Gurok abandoned his cheering fans. The crowd grew silent until only their champion's heavy footsteps echoed through the Colosseum. Arrow could feel the thud-thud of the great orc's approach. Closer and closer the sound got, then nothing. He jumped. Arrow knew that Gurok was flying through the air, yet he sat motionless. In the moment just before Gurok's strike, something magnificent occurred. Arrow broke through his barriers, accessing his inner store of energy. With an explosion of light, Gurok's attack struck only sand. Standing behind the great orc halfway across the arena, Arrow inspected himself. Whoa! It's like the first time I battled Hanzo. Eyes sparking with blue plasma, hair standing by the charge of the energy arcing across his body, Arrow could feel his power. Gurak could not face the embarrassment in front of his fans and charged. Running at Arrow with the same attack, Gurak leapt into the air, raising his golden staff high for another attack. Unfortunately for him, Arrow was more than ready. With speed he did not understand, Arrow exploded from his standstill position, appearing past Gurak in the air. Landing behind each other, they turned, ready to continue. When Gurak saw the sick look appear across Arrow's face, he became confused. Attempting to take a step forward, he faltered to a knee. Looking down, Gurak could see a earthling-sized hole through his chest and stomach. Realizing how mortally wounded he was, Gurak bellowed with joyous laughter before curling forward. The crowd grew silent as their champion remained hunched over, lifeless. Arrow could only stare at his hands and back at what they had done. What just happened? What the hell just happened? He cried. Bits and flakes began to peel from Gurak as his body disintegrated into a shiny, black cloud of dust that in time faded away. Arrow's sobs echoed through the quiet coliseum. With a swoosh and pop, Arrow magically returned to the space just outside the twisted turtle shell forest. What now? Arrow cried, failing to gather himself. Am I supposed to kill anyone else? With no response, panic took hold of Arrow, causing distrust in his own powers. Get this stupid stuff off me, he said, clawing at the energy still purging from his body. Arrow only stopped the self-mutilation when he noticed many eyes gazing at him from the edge of the tangled forest. The energy swarming around his body glowed much brighter in space, creating a warming effect as if Arrow was his own star. The many creatures were enticed by this purity of essence and drawn to his light. The many creatures, starting with the Sloxes, curiously made their way towards him. Arrow was prepared for them to seek revenge for killing their champion, but to his surprise, they only increased in curiosity. The herd of magical creatures came closer, each sniffing for danger. Enamored by their investigation, the many creatures accepted Arrow, rejoicing in his presence. Zooming around, they celebrated. One by one, they presented themselves, nuzzling Arrow and giving him their blessing. They even let him touch them. Letting the horror of what he had just done pass, Arrow joined the many creatures in frolicking about. Unable to understand what was going on, he decided not to question the wonderful experience.